So all of this takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and as you can see, unless you're onto it all of the time, it gets out of hand really fast. So I do spend pretty much every Sunday in the garden. I love it. It brings me peace and solace and comfort, and helps keep me full too, which is a nice thing. I take it a row at a time. So I do the peas first, then I clean up the asparagus, which we're doing today. I'm planting some more peas. Then every sort of 2 or 3 years I have a soil test done, and I'll do that in the fall. I'll take some samples of soil from each one of these, not each one of these rows, but each of the beds. I'll take a little bit of soil from like 4 or 5 rows and mix it together, and then send a little baggie off to the University of Massachusetts Extension Service, which has an excellent soil testing service, and they send you back a few days later a complete analysis of your soil, and that's a really good thing to know, because then you can know in the springtime if you need to add more humus, which is like compost, or if you need to add lime, or if a certain crop is failing and you suggest to if you say to the Extension Service, I want to grow beets and my beets are not growing, they will give you some indicators as to what you can do to the soil to improve it for that particular crop. So it's a really good service to avail yourself of, and I try and do it every, as I say, 2 to 3 years. I'll send in a soil sample or 2, and it's also quite exciting because you can then get into the science behind what's making your plants grow. And soil science is quite complicated. Sort of issues that you discuss are things like cation exchange and the best way to release minerals to your plants. And I'm not very good at it at the moment. I'm learning. I'm on a very steep learning curve. But if you can take some time out to learn about soil during the winter, it helps the following year. So Doug was asking what I do once I get out of here. After the initial cleanup, I've bought a thing called a broad fork, which is a wide fork. It's about as wide as one of these roses wide. And in the old days, people used to turn the soil over. And that was taking the A horizon with all the humus in it and digging down a spit of, one spit of your spade, and digging down and lifting up and turning it over and breaking it up. And that led to a very soft, friable soil that was easy to work. But everything has changed in the last decade or so. People are saying don't turn over the soil, rather just aerate it by putting a broad fork in and tipping it back about 90 degrees. So the next time we're filming, I'll show Douglas how you do a broad fork. But you break the soil, you let air into the soil, which is good because plants need oxygen as well as water and minerals to grow. So and then after that's done, I just work in the top inch or so where you're doing a seed bed. Some people use a little mini rototiller. I think there's one called a mantis out there. Those are kind of neat. They're noisy, but they're very quick. But in doing that, you have to walk backwards, and that means you're walking on your bed and compacting it. So I try and avoid doing that. If I walk on the bed, I tend to put a piece of plywood down to stand on so that I'm not compacting the soil. All the work I've put into making these raised beds, the last thing I want to do is compact them. So I try and keep off them as much as possible, and I try not to work the edges of them because that then leads to erosion and they slowly sink down. So every 2 or 3 years I'll raise them back up again. But on the whole, I try and do as little digging as possible, just breaking the surface to do my seed beds or planting my little plugs. So once you've done your soil test and you've broken your soil by doing the broad forking, and you've prepared your seed bed by using either a little mini rototiller or an earth rake and a fork, that's pretty much all I do. I call it a day then, and I start growing things, because I can remember my dad would till for hours and hours and hours and hours, and come back in the evening to the house with a sore back, and I don't think he had any better results than I'm getting here for all that labor. I just don't have the time to do that. I don't think many people do these days. We're all so busy. So you have to take some shortcuts. And okay, so maybe you'd only get 2/3 maybe 3/4 of the yield, but it's considerably less energy is put into the preparation of the bed this way.